Well, I'm joined now by Dr. Joe Sirven, our own Dr. Joe Sirven of the WJCT program and podcast, What's Health Got to Do with It? He visits us every month for a house call to talk medical news and to take your calls and questions. Welcome, Dr. Joe.
Well, it's so good to be here and happy October.
Happy October. Of course, Dr. Joe will answer any healthcare question you have. If you want to call us, you can reach us at 904-549-2937, or you can email us at firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. But October, Dr. Joe, I mean, let's start with the sort of not so happy Halloween issues that can surface with this holiday. I was surprised to see that, according to some, it is one of the more dangerous holidays of the year.
Yeah, it is. And let me start off by saying I love Halloween. I'm the house with the pumpkin in the front and the lit up wreath, all that type of stuff. So I'm not anti-Halloween, but yes. There are a lot of things that go very wrong health-wise at Halloween, and it's all related to just the festivities going out of control or not, always following common sense, if you will.
Yeah, it seems like there's kind of these additional hazards that present themselves. I mean, there's some holidays that are very much associated with drinking and driving. You think of
Yes,
like 4th of July, Memorial Day. But on Halloween, you've got fire, because people are often lighting their pumpkins,
correct.
lighting candles. You have masks, which can
Yes.
really limit visibility. And you have people carving pumpkins. So there's this
Yes.
enormous statistic of, about half of all the ER visits on Halloween are
It
related to knives and pumpkin carving.
I'm smiling because I've know that the rare moments that we've done pumpkin carving, that is not a simple thing to do. That it looks so easy when you see the Charlie Brown special and everything like that. It doesn't work that way. There are dull knives, and when those things go awry, guess what? There's cuts. When you add that plus everything you just mentioned, costumes that don't fit, allergies, food
Oh,
allergies,
yeah.
nut allergies go off the rails. And imagine those old days. I don't want to date myself when people used to bob for apples. I mean,
Yeah.
these are, you have the recipe for a lot of problems. Plus, most Halloween activities occur at dusk or at night. So your visibility, you're walking around, um, people trip, people fall. Sadly, car accidents do occur,
Sure.
especially if you're at drinking and driving like those other holidays. So when you put it all together, I'm not the one who wanted to be on call on
Yeah.
Halloween because
Suffice it to say.
things always happen. That again, not anti Halloween, but it's just you just have to be kind of mindful of these things and know that you just have to be more careful, if you will.
Yeah, and especially I think walking around at night too in the dark. I mean, you do see a lot of that, in any neighborhood that doesn't have sidewalks or even
Correct.
some that do. Kids tend to walk in the street and they can really get, if they're not well lit, can be a problem.
Exactly. If you're speeding, if you're going too fast, if you don't see them, the kids themselves, because they're in masks, that visibility may not be as clear as if it was any other night. And even walking at night is not always the easiest thing. So a lot of just things happen, and it's just have fun, but be careful is really my biggest message if I had to give anything with regards to that.
Sometimes it just means giving a little thought, ahead of time.
Absolutely.
All right, I want to switch to a somewhat more serious subject, which is sort of like what is a pregnant person to do? There have been advisories given by our president. There have been warnings about vaccines and then reversals on those recommendations. And I think that people are rightfully probably sort of confused. So let's start with the acetaminophen, which is Tylenol, and
Right.
which pregnant women have, been advised is safe to take for many, many years.
And it is still safe to take. If you look at the American College of OBGYN, that is the main grouping of all OBGYNs in the United States, they have issued statements on this issue, and they very much state that it is okay to take Tylenol during pregnancy. Mindful, there are these low that studies that have pointed out they're not causally related, just kind of loose associations with the concerns that have been brought out, but there is nothing like a consensus that you should stop taking it. More importantly, note that the reason people take it is for fever. Fever in even in the very first trimester of pregnancy can be problematic. That's when birth defects can occur. And so you don't want to just kind of not do anything about that. The evidence still favors taking Tylenol, and that is supported by the American College of OBGYN, regardless of whatever political folks are saying overall. Physicians are still recommending that that is still the way to go. And even some in the administration in health have actually kind of pointed to that as well.
And I think that, like all of these conversations that we have, you and I, you always do recommend consult your own physician,
Absolutely.
before you take anything. And that's should be a natural. What about the issue of COVID vaccinations? Because there was, initially a decision put forward by the panel selected by HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And then the independent advisory panel has sort of rolled that back.
Yes, which just tells you why the pushback for this. Remember that pregnant women, which is where he ruled, like, not to get COVID vaccines, or wasn't included in the first recommendation, they are more at risk for severe disease when it comes to COVID. And so it should never have been in that initial recommendation. I'm delighted that it's been quietly rolled back such that insurance covers if a pregnant woman wishes to get a COVID vaccine. This is still the thing to do. No one's ever changed from a medical perspective. And that's just telling me perhaps that when they covered it that way, that there was enough pushback to say, hey, that was maybe an overreach in terms of a recommendation.
If you're just joining us, we're talking to Dr. Joe Sirven. He's a Mayo neurologist, and he joins us once a month for a house call. He talks medical headlines and takes your calls and questions. You can reach us at 904-549-2937. You can email First Coast Connect at wjct.org, or you can reach out on Facebook, Instagram, or X at FCC On Air. We've got a call from Charles on the West Side. Good morning, Charles. Go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. Dr. Joe on the dangers of Halloween and bobbing for apples. Back in 1968, we were stationed in Germany, and they had a little Halloween fest on base, and I went as a hippie because, it's a song, if you're going to San Francisco, be sure to wear flowers in your hair. And my mom styled her hairpiece that she used for her B-52 beehive hairdo. And I went to the bobbing for apples thing and went after the first two, and when I went for the third one, I ducked my head completely into the water, forgetting about my mom's hairpiece. It got soaking wet, and I thought I ruined it when I saw her after it was over, and I was really upset. She said, "That's okay, it's waterproof," But on the Tylenol thing, real quick, I've been. Well, that was for pregnant women, but the thing about, since you're a neurologist, my mom saw a neurologist at Baptist, and she has an arterial occlusion there in the back part of her brain. And he took her off Plavix and everything, and he just wants her to take one 325 aspirin a day to melt the occlusion. And because he said it was too dangerous, at her age of 89 to go in and put in a little stent or something. So have you heard of that? To just use aspirin, because she's been doing that for a year now.
So Bob, first of all, I love your bobbing for apple story. To start off with, you pictured it well, but thankfully that's gone out. To your other question, aspirin is a little different from things like Tylenol because aspirin has an anti-clotting effect. It's still used in some people, in many people for anti-clotting purposes in people with prevent heart attacks, even prevent certain types of strokes. When they can't do a procedure like you're describing, and you want to have some type of anti-clotting ability to kind of prevent clots from forming so that you prevent strokes, if you can't use, or if you don't need to use the stronger forms of anti-clotting, things like that drug you talked about, Plavix, which goes by clopidogrel, or something in that direction, you can use some versions of aspirin because it's over the counter, and you can take and utilize it for that impact. So the answer is yeah. In fact, aspirin is not that uncommonly used for clot prevention in a lot of different conditions. It's just not used, willy-nilly for everybody. But for some instances, that is not a wrong choice. And so, yeah, we have heard of it. That is part of kind of a standard, if you will.
What would be the reason for not using a more traditional blood thinner?
I think that the more traditional blood thinner is going to be stronger. It's going to have the increase. Yes, it's going to be more thinning of the blood, but it also is going to make you more at risk for a bleeding complication, such as if you accidentally hit your head or something along those lines. You're more at risk for having a hemorrhage or something along those lines. So aspirin, although it can have those risks as well, it's not as big a risk. You're always nothing is innocent. So you have to always balance what's the benefit, what's the risk, and how do you kind of find that sweet spot between those two? And that's why that decision is made.
I wonder, when you're talking about somebody like the age too of Charles's mom, if,
Yes.
they older people bruise easier, they're thin, their skin gets a little bit less resilient, and maybe a traditional blood thinner would just be put
Too
them
much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that would be the simplest way that I would put it. And you're absolutely right. As you age, you are more prone. Your blood vessels may be a little bit more brittle than they used to be. And that's why you see a lot of purplish bruising from things that would be innocuous from someone at a much younger age. But thank you, Bob, for that question.
Yeah. So food dyes, I want to talk about this. So Walmart made a big announcement. They're getting a lot of good attention for promising to remove synthetic dyes and 30 other additives from their private label food brands.
Right.
This is something that they say is going to be in effect by January 2027. Tell us a little bit about kind of what's happening here.
So this is following probably two elements. Walmart is doing a great thing. I applaud them 100%. They are stripping out any type of artificial elements from their colors in terms of how they, on their own brands of things, their sweeteners, their food additives, their fats, and things of that sort. This is likely following two elements. Number one, the state of California has, for years since I think 2022, 2024, has also put in a law that they are going to take this out. Where California goes, remember, folks, whether we like it or not, California is one of America's biggest states, one of the biggest economies. If they're going to do this, where California goes, most of the time the rest of the country goes, because a company like Walmart probably does not want to be formulating two sets of different products, one just for California law and one for the U.S. So the smarter thing is to follow it along. So it may be that element had a big influence because of the size of the California market. The second thing is just the general vibe right now. If you look at the Make America Healthy Again movement, it's all about eliminating this. This is a very laudable goal. We're all in favor in that regard. And I suspect that the timing fits very well in terms of just reading the tea leaves from a national, federal level. But this is an interesting one because I think the California thing happened way even before the MAHA movement existed.
Sure. And I mean, we do know that these kinds of dyes and additives have been enormously concerning for decades now. I mean, it's been, the Center for Science and the Public Interest has filed petitions. They've published studies. They've linked some of these to hyperactivity in children. We've known, that some of these dyes and additives caused cancer in rats. I mean, we've known that since the 80s.
Yeah, this should have been gone a while ago, and that the fact they're coming to it, I'll take a win now, even if it's late. But Ann, you're absolutely right. This is something that we should not have had in the food supply to begin with. So kudos to them, and I'm glad because normally a company the size of Walmart means that others will likely follow suit.
Sure. And we have seen too recently, PepsiCo and Kraft Heinz have also pledged to phase out artificial dyes. And to your point, these regulations are already going into effect in a very large state like California, but these specific changes really are following on the heels of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and his priorities, including getting petroleum-based dyes and some of these dyes that are linked to impacts, whether they're physical or carcinogenic impacts, getting those out of foods.
I love this is one of those areas that I think everyone in the medical community can actually rally around overall, which is yes. We need to kind of be better or more vigilant about what we put in our bodies from a food standpoint. And I think that people are reading the tea leaves. In fact, one of the things that has come down the line is that now suddenly we are in the world of medical education. Just to give you a vibe for this, all medical programs, med schools, fellowships, residencies, they want to show that we are teaching nutrition and these elements of nutrition within the framework of medical education overall, so that your next generation of doctors and other providers are basically able to speak to this in a more preventative way. And that's just another element of how that whole movement is impacting just this aspect, if you will, of which being preventative in with regards to the food that you eat.
What does it take? What ought it take to get these large scale changes in, actually implemented? I mean, just this last week, there was a big piece in the New York Times about paraquat and its possible connection to Parkinson's disease
Yeah,
and a range of neurological, very bad things.
yeah.
And that again is not new science. I mean, people have known for decades that paraquat is, and I think I'm saying that right.
You're saying it right.
That is, I mean, it's an herbicide. It is very effective, and it has proven neurological impacts on, lab rats.
There is a lot of environmental toxins out there that should just not be in our food. What does it take? It literally means that there has to be a stick with this. This is a policy type of driven issue. The only way policy gets driven, and especially when you're talking about food and industry, is that there has to be an upswelling, a movement. People have to demand it, and you have to be like showing the sales are good for the areas that do not have that. Everything you're saying is right. There are definitely, and that's just one example. There are probably
Sure.
more examples than that would get us all fairly upset. But yes, this is something that needs to be
Sure.
focused
I
on.
mean, PFAS are still
Oh
not
my
illegal to manufacture and sell. And we know that, those have tremendous forever chemical impacts on all kinds of things.
Until people quit buying them, until there's a movement to say quit doing this, that it just doesn't change. If the sales are still strong and things of that sort, I imagine, and they're allowed to still do it, we find ourselves in this situation. There's a lot of stuff that we can prevent.
In terms of California's influence, we talk about how they kind of help drive the conversation because they're so big. And no doubt they're a reason that we're not buying cars that get 10 miles to the gallon anymore. So,
That's
they
right.
have played a role in pushing for environmental change and for health impacts. Um, Florida is also a really big state.
Mhm.
It traditionally hasn't really led on that. But is the state powerful enough at the state level to make changes that could actually influence national policy or at least offer protections to people who live here?
I think that the answer is a definite yes. Any of the big states, and when I'm talking about besides California, Florida, Texas, New York, immediately come to mind. If any of those start making any movements towards any type of shift in policy, there's enough population driving it that makes sense. So yeah, Florida can easily be one of those in the driver's seat for making decisions that affect the entire country.
All right, I want to shift gears and talk about cheaper weight loss drugs
Yeah.
because this is something that Costco has announced that they're going to start making Ozempic and Wegovy available. They're joining a couple of other major retailers like CVS and Walmart. What is going on, first of all, with the availability of that drug, the affordability of that drug?
Right now, it is a very expensive drug, and so a lot of people have gone to sources such as online sources, compounding groups, to try to find inexpensive ways of getting kind of like the drug.
How expensive is it for people?
It can go all the way, ranging, if not at that $500 level, but three times that. It can go up to $1,500 a month without even batting an eye.
And not covered by insurance?
And a lot of insurance will cover it these days, but there are lifetime limits in terms of how much they're going to pay out for it. And so this is one of those areas that I also have to applaud Costco and these companies for putting a lower expensive, because what we're finding about these meds is that it's like almost becoming like a new version of aspirin. It has, where we started on our phone call, it has all these wonderful effects in terms of not only is it weight loss, it prevents liver conditions, it shows that it's beneficial for preventing diabetes, it's helpful for preventing dementia. It's like if once you hit that issue, you've now kind of settled a lot of other areas. Insurance coverage is better, but it is not perfect. So this will help significantly.
Just very briefly, because we are going to have to wrap, a study that found that women who skip their first mammograms are likelier to have, problematic breast cancer diagnosis later, in part because they found if they skip their first one, sometimes they cancel their later ones.
Right. So this is a good reminder. October is also Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Get the mammogram. That study was huge because it just tells you, if you don't start into the mindset of getting this routine preventative screening, sometimes you just don't get into the mindset of doing it even after that. And that's where you lose time. Remember that there's a lot of rising rates of cancer in younger folks. Getting those screenings is huge. And again, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Work that in as well.
And women over 40 are generally, that's kind of when you're supposed to start?
Correct. They had brought the age down, and so it is just a powerful reminder that this saves lives.
All right. Well, Dr. Joe Sirven, thank you as always. His show is What's Health Got to Do with It? You can hear it Saturdays at 4 on WJCT. You can also find it wherever you get your podcasts. Dr. Joe, thanks for being here.
You bet. Happy Halloween early.
Happy Halloween.